Yeah, thank you very much, Richard, and a very warm welcome to everyone. Just let's go quickly to the agenda. So we will be looking on how to configure CPEs today, mainly routers, access points, and switches to register on our management platform. Also, we'll be looking at monitoring, how to automate configuration backups. There are a few ways of in which you can do firmware upgrades on our platform, so we'll be looking at that as well. Yeah, the Q&A session at the end. I hope everyone can see my screen. I'm pretty sure you do. So just a quick note, before you'll be able to manage any DrayTek device, you must perform some configuration changes to start with. On our routers, you can log in and under system maintenance on the TR69, it's here where you can actually define your TR69 profile. So you need to add the URL. So you might have different URLs, depends on where the server is. On my case, it's c2.draytek.co.uk. Always use the wizard, because this wizard is going to bring you a is going to allow you to pre-populate the handler, which is very important. So you just add c2.draytek.co.uk HTTPS, always press OK, and that's going to do the trick. All right, so I think all right. Then username and password, those are unique and network specific. If you don't know which those are, you can find them on ACS. So under network management, you can hover over your network. So you can go to any network that you have in there, and then you have the username and the password. You can reveal this password if you want, but those credentials are only used for the CPE to register on the platform. So those are not used for you to log in on the platform. So here is where you find your credentials for CPEs. Then if the device is behind NAT, this is very important because the device being behind NAT can't not normally be managed. So you need a STAN server. The good news is that the ACS server can act as a STAN server as well. So you don't need a third-party STAN server for that matter. So you can use the same URL. Bear in mind that you don't really use any HTTPS or HTTPs or Ws in the beginning or anything at the end. It's a pure DNS request for that IP address. As you can see, the service is 3478. You can ignore the secondary ACS server. That's for redundancy. And then moving down below to the CPE client settings. So we want the ACS to tap the device on HTTPS, and also periodic inform enabled. So we want the device to report to the ACS server network events such as users or clients, traffic utilization, and so on and so on. And then I do have behind this particular router 2 access points and the switch. So I want to provision this profile to those network devices as well without logging in on them. So specify STAN, yes, because those are going to be NATed, so always NATed. And then put the admin password in here for those devices and press OK. As soon as you do this, you should be able to see the last inform right here. If it's connected, the last info. Now we are not done. We need to move to the management section. And in here, we must ensure that the TR69 is enabled. Otherwise, the ACS won't be able to manage the device remotely. You don't need HTTPS. So if you want to improve security, you can disable HTTPS for management. However, if you are using ACLs, yeah, you need to add the public address of our ACS server in there, or whatever that might be. If you are not using ACLs, then you don't have to do anything. So this is just in case you are using ACLs. From a troubleshooting point of view as well, on some devices you may have an expired self-sign certificate. So if you go to certificate management, self-sign certificates, and just make sure that the certificate is still valid. If it's not valid, you can quickly regenerate the expired certificate. You select type to none, and then you pre-populate those fields and press on generate. Newer devices such as 2862 on the latest firmware or any other current device can they auto regenerate those certificates, so it doesn't need your intervention for that matter. However, older devices such as 2860 and older than that, they don't have this ability. Therefore, you have to do it roughly annually in order for that to be a valid certificate. If it's invalid, the ACS won't be able to access the device via HTTPS, so you'll end up with having one-way comms sort of scenario. Right, so this is it. Those are the required settings for you to perform before bringing a device to the ACS. Now moving to the platform, we know that's the London router we looked at, so we can see it in here. We can see the access points behind it, the switch as well. So if we go to through the device menu quickly, we can have a look at this particular switch to start with. You have full transparency in terms of what you can collect from this switch. We can see the PoE ports that are in use currently to access points, and the uplink to the router as well. Let's assume that one of these AP doesn't respond, or maybe it's an IP phone or a CCTV camera that doesn't respond. Well, you can quickly go to PoE, and in the hopes that by power cycling the PoE port, that particular device is going to come back online, you can apply a power cycle. If you are required to perform your VLAN configuration, so you can create your VLANs, you can create some static routes. Our switches normally are layer 2+ switches, so they support the HCP, static routing, everything apart from dynamic routing, basically. Same level of transparency goes for the access, for our access points as well. So if we quickly have a look at the downstairs AP, as soon as the ACS is able to pull the available configuration, we can see the system resources. You have both wireless radios in here, so any changes that you are required to do, you don't really have to log in onto the device itself anymore. And last but not least, the router. So if you are accustomed with the GUI on our routers, everything is on the left-hand side. The same principle applies from ACS. So you find the configuration in here. 95% of the configuration is available through ACS. So this is basically the device menu. And right on the left-hand side, we have the ACS menu, which is divided into. At the bottom, we have ACS features, so only ACS features. And on the top, we have the device menu. So we went through these menus a moment ago, and the network menu as well. So instead of being in on a device menu, I can switch to the network menu. And now I'm presented with more options, one of which is statistics. And in here, what I want to do and what I want to see every day, maybe at the end of a business day, if there are any abnormalities in terms of traffic utilization. This by default, it's set to the last 24 hours. And if I go down here, I can see the top 10 ranking clients throughout my estate. So if you spot an abnormality, such as 100 gigabytes of gigabytes of traffic over a 24-hour period, and that shouldn't be the case, then you can proceed by copying the MAC address or the host name, and then move to monitoring under the monitoring clients. So in here we can paste the, it doesn't like the dots that are in between, so you need to get rid of those if you are using, if you are searching based on MAC addresses. So we found this device is connected to this particular router. It is wired. If it was wireless, you would have seen the SSID name as well. In some cases, you can even see the operating system that is running on that device, the total amount of traffic, and the connection time, so how long it has spent since it was plugged in on the network, or at least rebooted. Moreover, in here under monitoring, we have some logs as well, and there are three very important logs that I'd like to mention, one of which is CPE notify. So the actual router informs the ACS server about who logs in on it and what changes they are doing. So if I search for a particular device, which is the London router, we can see someone logged in on called admin. Obviously, if you have multiple admin user accounts, you'd be able to see who that user is. You can see the IP address they are coming from, and also what changes they've altered when they logged in onto the device. So login success, and they've altered the TR69 profile. The same. I mean, we've done that a moment ago. So how you enable this? There are three tabs on the TR69. One of which is reporting configuration, and in here I've enabled that for who logs in and what changes they are doing when they do log in. Again, you can have multiple administrator accounts, so if you do have multiple user accounts, then you'll be able to see exactly who that user was. So that's CPE notify. Another log type would be file transfer. Actually, no, let's go to set parameter instead. With set parameter, is kind of the other way around. You'll be able to see who logged in on ACS, and again, if they've changed, they've changed something on the CPEs using the ACS platform, then you'll find a record of that in here. And last but not least, file transfer. In here, let's assume that you've scheduled a firmware upgrade over the weekend. On Monday, you must come to this screen and make sure that, there is a total success. Also, the automation of configuration backup log, it's here as well. And saying this, now, a moment ago, I've mentioned that at the bottom we have ACS features only, one of which is automation of the configuration backups. So let's have a look on how to do this. Under schedule backup, you will be presented with two tabs, one of which is your network, and the other one is where you create the actual profile. So let's add a new profile called every 2 weeks. And now you need to set the loop. The loop is going to be, because it's 2 weeks, 14 days. So every 14 days, keep the last 20. So you don't need older than that, because if you do a backup every 2 weeks, keeping the last 20 is going to give you 7-8 months of worth of configuration backups. You can schedule it, so to start after midnight, maybe between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. So only between these two times. However, it's fine if you leave it as now, because this is not an invasive setting, so it's not going to reboot the device. As soon as you press save, now you are ready to go back to your network and apply that profile to your entire estate. Obviously, you can create different backup profiles, so you can create multiple profiles, and you can say, I want this particular network to back up the configuration every day or every 4 weeks instead of every 2 weeks. Right, so as soon as you do this, you'll start seeing on your file manager configuration backups. So the ACS is going to create a folder. It's going to add into that folder the configuration. In a couple of weeks' time, you will see another one, and so on, so off until it reaches 20. If you want to do a firmware upgrade now, you have a few options. One of which is go to DrayTek FTP and bring the firmware file straight in here. This is true only when you upgrade a non-DSL device. If you upgrade a DSL device, then you need to use the upload facility and download the firmware from draytek.co.uk, since UK has a custom-made firmware valid only for UK, firmware which you won't find on DrayTek FTP. But let's say you want to upgrade your access points. So you quickly go to find the firmware section. So what do we have here? AP903. Go to firmware. And right at the bottom is going to be the latest firmware. Select the zip file, press on download, and that should unzip it automatically and add it to your network, to your file manager rather. If that takes too long, for some reason now it does, I'll just refresh the page. Something might have happened. If we go to share firmware, I can see the latest firmware is in here. It's already on my folder. I can delete the zip file because I don't need that. Yes. And now I can proceed to do a firmware upgrade. So you have two options of doing firmware upgrade, one of which is really well suited for testing and for small networks. The other one, it's under provisioning, and it's well suited for very large, even small networks if you want. I like the maintenance firmware to start with because I can test it, see if before deploying to the entire estate, if everything works fine and if the firmware succeeds and if there are no issues. So I always use this particular way of doing firmware upgrades. So in here you add a new job. So you need to add a job for each router model. This case is an access point. Upgrade time, this must be scheduled because it's going to reboot the actual device at the end of the process. So between 2 AM and 4 AM, you can specify a date on a Sunday. And then you select the firmware file relevant for this. And now I want to apply a filter because there are loads of devices in here. So I only want to see 903s on that screen. And that filtered out anything else, so I can see the 903s in here right now. Press save, and that's gonna basically upgrade the firmware on these two APs. Same principle applies to routers and everything else. So this is the first way of doing firmware upgrades now. Now, if everything works accordingly after you tested the firmware upgrade, you can move to provisioning firmware upgrade. So if I add a new job in here, I'll call this the, let's say, 2927 job. Status is going to be enabled, schedule. So this is going to be the same with the mention that we don't select the date. So we select the start time and end time between 2 AM and 4 AM, but without specifying a date. model. So it's going to be 2927. If it's not here, you can just type it yourself. So 2927 star. So that means any flavor of that model, which doesn't match firmware 4.4.3.2 maybe. Not sure, but let's assume that that's the latest firmware. No DSL, but if it is a DSL device, you just select star. So any type of DSL, you don't care about that. Apply firmware, that's going to send you to select the firmware file. Select the firmware file from there, whatever that might be. And then you apply that to your entire network. There might be 1,000 of these devices in there. Obviously, you can't use the maintenance firmware upgrade because that requires you to go through each and one of them. Therefore, you can use this particular way of doing firmware upgrades. But more importantly is, so what happens here? Every day between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., the ACS server is going to look up 2927s that are not already on this firmware, and it's going to apply the firmware that's defined in here. Because I haven't set a date, the ACS assumes that it has to do this every day. If the device is on that firmware, yeah, it's going to be ignored. If it's not on that firmware, it's going to upgrade the firmware on them. Now, if you are sending a new router to one of your customers, they plug the router online, and then the device registers on ACS. And if the device is not on the latest firmware, it's going to get the latest firmware as well, because there is a job waiting for it in here. As soon as a new firmware is released, you just come down to this profile and edit the profile with the new firmware. You select the new file, and that's it. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. So let's see if there are any questions that I might answer.
No, there's no questions. You must be getting really good at this.
Well, I hope that there are some questions because we have quite a few attendees. So yeah, any questions related to today's webinar or ACS in general? That's fine. Guys, if you don't know how to use the control panel, on the right hand side there is an orange arrow. Just expand that, and then you have chat or question underneath on a gray background. All right, so we have one question here. Let's see. Oh, we do have some questions. Yeah. Right, so do you need to use DrayTek router for APs to connect to the ACS? So Edward, no, you don't. Well, actually, we have quite a few questions in here. Let's start from the top. Yeah, Ian, Nicola, yeah, I know GoToMeeting is awful, is what we are using now. Edward, so we have ACS set up, but it's ACS2. Can we migrate to ACS3 portal? Absolutely, Edward. If you are talking about your self-hosted version of ACS, yes, absolutely, you can migrate it to ACS3 anytime. Just send an email to info@draytek.co.uk.
Mihai, I can't see the questions, so I'm afraid you're on your own.
Yeah, it's on the questions, actually. It's not on the chat. There's another section, Richard. Right, so I'm still using ACS1. How do we move to ACS3? Lloyd, to be honest, that's yeah, it's send an email to info@draytek.co.uk, and yeah, you'll be able to migrate. So how do we get the code for ACS? Andrew Childs. Andrew, send me an email, and I'll take care of anything. Do you need to use a DrayTek router for the APs to connect with ACS? Nigel Skies. Nigel, very good question, and the answer is no. The AP can independently register on the ACS platform. Don't forget to to define the stand settings as I've done in the beginning. So if you remember in here, the same goes for for our access points. So the same settings, same way the settings are arranged on our APs as well. So the stand is very important. And yeah, that's it. Let's see the next question. We have ACS set up, but it's ACS2. How can we migrate? Yeah, Edward. So you will send an email to ACS to info@draytek.co.uk. How do we upgrade our ACS? I notice you are on 3 and we're on 2. Neil, yeah, the same things apply. If you are using our cloud ACS2, which is the standard version, the dealer's version, yeah, that we don't have a time frame for upgrade to ACS3. But if you guys are using a self-hosted version and you want to upgrade to ACS3, you either send me an email or info@draytek.co.uk.
I'm with you on the questions now, Mihai. Next couple are for me. How do we get ACS? Mihai, could you stick in the chat the link for that for us?
Yeah.
And next one, how do we get a quote for ACS? Andrew, if you go to your distribution partner, they'll be able to help you. That there's two or three different flavors. So you got self-hosted, we can host it for you, and there's also a free version as well. So if you haven't got ACS already, I suggest going for the free version and then upgrading it. Do you need to use a DrayTek router for the APs to connect with ACS? That's one for you, Mihai.
I answered that one already. So yeah. So Richard, which link do you need? The registration?
Yeah, the registration link.
All right, I'll put it on the chat.
Is a good one. Bit off topic. No, we'll accept that, Danny. I have ACS2, but the password doesn't work. I've raised it with support, but no response. Don't know why that is. I'll go and if you can give us the ticket number, Danny, I'll go and check that out for you. Would you be able to assist? Keen to get some devices onboarded. Anything you can do on this call, Mihai, or shall I just chase tech on that?
Sorry, will this recording be available? Well, that's marketing. It's out of my hands for now. So previously, when we were doing this on Teams, was okay, because the recording was available immediately, but that's gonna be available on the dealer's portal only, if I'm not wrong. How do we get ACS? That's done. Bit off topic.
Mihai, you missed the question there. I was asking. Bit off topic from Danny Chaplin. I have ACS2, but the password doesn't work. He's raised a ticket with support, which I'll chase through to find out why he's had no response. Anything you can do on this call to advise him on that?
I think we probably, I don't know what to do. So if they have a ticket, they should put it in here. That's Danny. That's your ACS reference. It's not a ticket. That's your ACS reference. So if we assume that you've raised a ticket with support or called the support, you can call support and select ACS, and that's going to be directed to the ACS team. There are 4 options: routers, access point switches, and ACS. So that's the 4th option.
Last question on this list from Lloyd Bundy. I'm still using ACS1. How do I move to ACS3?
Richard, I've been through all these, so
okay, mate. Sorry, I was trying to work.
Because you came late a bit, so that's so we are now at Danny Chaplin, Richard George. What switches APs are compatible with ACS? Can you see that, Richard?
Yeah, I'm up to speed with you now. I was working from the bottom.
Right. Okay. All right. Right. So, Richard.
Sorry,
Richard George. Yeah, all our current switches and access points and previous ones are working with ACS. So if we are talking about very, very old switches like 2260 or 2261, those are not compatible with ACS. Any switch after that, like P1085, P1280, or G1280, yeah, those are compatible with ACS, no problem. And yeah, even APs older, like AP900 is compatible, but you aren't gonna get the full spectrum of features on that one. All right, so Nigel's guys, the ports 3478 and 8069 need to be released on a firewall. Yeah, so Nigel, the way it works, 3478, it's a port that the ACS server is listening to, because as I said, it acts as a STAN server. So you need that inbound, and 8069 is going to be outbound as well. The ACS server also listens to 443 or whatever port you've selected for your HTTPS, and 80 if you are using that port as well. So that's again 80, 443, 3478 inbound, so listening to, and outbound, yeah, it needs outbound traffic as well, 443, 8069, and so on and so on. Are here any questions that we might have not asked? Sorry, answered. All right, so thank you everyone for coming. Was a very good session due to the fact that we've done this on GoToWebinar for the first time, and it looks okay. So yeah, I hope I'll see you all next week. Next week it's gonna be Tuesday, so we do have the advanced webinar for ACS, and also in the upcoming weeks we'll launch a new webinar from the same series. It's only SD-WAN related features on that webinar, so keep an eye on communications from our marketing department, and I hope I'll see you all next week. Cheers, bye now.
Thanks, Mihai. Bye bye, everybody.